The Battle of Nexus 7 had raged for 17 standard cycles. Volusian cruisers, their hulls gleaming with iridescent photon-absorbing plating, exchanged antimatter volleys with the Cathar swarming hive ships across the contested asteroid belt. Neither side gained significant advantage. Neither side showed signs of withdrawal. It was merely another front in a war that had consumed the spiral arm for generations. In the command center of the Cathar flagship Endless Dominion, High Commander Vexar observed the tactical display with 6 narrowed eyes. The battle proceeded exactly as the military algorithms had predicted, casualties within acceptable parameters, resource expenditure tracking to projections. The war against the Volusian Federation continued its optimal course. "High Commander," spoke a subordinate, mandibles clicking nervously. "Our border sensors have detected an anomalous energy signature in the Kepler sector. The Kepler sector is neutral territory, strategically insignificant." Vexar dismissed without turning. "Continue primary engagement." "But Commander, preliminary readings suggest it might be a previously unknown species installation. The signatures don't match any cataloged civilization profile." Vexar's irritation manifested as a low chittering. "Dispatch Strike Group Theta to investigate and neutralize if necessary. Minimal resources. The primitives of the outer sectors are inconsequential to our greater objective." The subordinate bowed and transmitted the orders. The fate of Kepler 186F was decided in less than 30 seconds of consideration. Strike Group Theta, comprising 3 assault cruisers and their fighter complements, dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Kepler system. The target was immediately visible, a modest orbital station circling the 4th planet, emitting regular communication pulses in an outdated frequency spectrum. Captain Zivkral of the lead cruiser, Merciless Doctrine, studied the readings with detached curiosity. "Primitive technology. Their defensive systems are barely adequate for meteor deflection," he noted. "Composition analysis indicates carbon-based life forms. Approximately 200 individuals." His weapons officer awaited orders. "Shall we demand surrender, Captain?" "Unnecessary," Zivkral replied. "The High Command authorized neutralization without diplomatic contact. This system has resources that may prove useful in our war effort, and eliminating potential complications now is simply efficient. Execute Pattern 7 bombardment." The Cathar ships encircled the station, their weapons powered up with precise synchronization, targeting critical infrastructure nodes. The station's rudimentary warning systems activated too late. Inside Kepler Research Station, Dr. Eleanor Chun was recording her weekly log. "Day 432 on Kepler 186F, she spoke into the recorder. "Our terraforming experiments continue to exceed expectations. The modified algae strains have increased oxygen production by 27% in the northern test quadrant. At this rate, we might achieve breathable atmosphere in the lowlands within." She paused, noticing the emergency lights flashing. "That's strange. We weren't expecting any." The station shuddered violently as the first barrage struck. Warning klaxons blared throughout the corridors. The control room erupted in panicked shouts as personnel frantically assessed the situation. "Unknown vessels opened fire without warning," the security chief yelled. "Shields failing. Multiple hull breaches on levels 3 through 7. Dr. Chun stared in horror at the external camera feed showing the sleek, predatory silhouettes of Cathar warships methodically circling the station. "This is a scientific research facility," she whispered in disbelief. "We're in neutral space. We're non-combatants." The station's commander rushed to the emergency broadcast system. "This is Kepler Research Station to all Allied forces. We are under unprovoked attack by Cathar vessels. We have civilians aboard. Request immediate." His transmission cut short as a precision strike obliterated the communications array. The station's reactor containment systems failed moments later. Captain Zivkral observed the expanding debris field with clinical detachment. Target neutralized. No survivors detected. Commencing resource survey of the planetary system. One of his sensor technicians spoke up. "Captain, we detected an automated distress beacon launch moments before destruction. It appears to have transmitted successfully before we could intercept." "Irrelevant," Zivkral responded. "These humans had no significant allies in this sector. By the time any response is organized, we will have secured and depleted this system of useful materials." He turned to his navigation officer. "Set course for the inner planets. The fourth world shows promising mineral deposits. The destruction of Kepler Research Station registered as a minor incident in the vast bureaucracy of galactic warfare. The Volusian High Command noted the event with minimal interest. Merely another example of Cthar aggression in a neutral zone, tactically irrelevant to the major theaters of conflict. Their strategic AIs calculated no significant impact on the overall war effort. In the Grand Assembly of the Galactic Council, the human ambassador's formal protest was acknowledged, recorded, and effectively shelved. The major powers had more pressing concerns than the destruction of a single research station belonging to a species barely established beyond their home system. "We extend our formal condolences for your loss," the Volusian representative stated diplomatically. "However, until humanity establishes a more significant presence and enters into formal protection treaties, we cannot divert military resources to investigate what is, in the context of the current conflict, a peripheral incident." The human ambassador's face darkened. 217 lives. Scientists, engineers, families. Peripheral. "The war demands difficult calculations," the Volusian replied. "I'm sure you understand." The matter was closed. The galactic powers returned to their grand conflict, their elaborate strategies, their calculated acceptable losses. The destruction of a human outpost was a footnote, soon forgotten by all except humanity itself. In the depths of Earth's heavily restricted Omega facility, beneath 2 kilometers of Antarctic ice, a priority signal reached its intended recipient. Automated systems verified the authentication codes that should never have needed activation. Dormant protocols awoke. In a chamber accessible to only 7 individuals on the planet, a quantum-locked vault unsealed for the first time since its creation. Inside, a single console illuminated. Upon its screen flashed one message. "Contingency Omega authorized. Activation code Kepler fallen. Release JÖRMUNGANDR." 3 days later, and 16 light-years from the destroyed Kepler station, a Cthar mining outpost detected unusual gravitational fluctuations. The supervising engineer dismissed it as instrument error. Their equipment had been operating continuously for 7 years without proper calibration. The anomalies intensified over the next 12 hours, but no alert was issued. When the outpost abruptly ceased all transmissions, Cthar's Central Command assumed it was due to standard solar interference in that sector. It was not. At the Xylos Fortress, the crown jewel of Cthar military might in the quadrant, Fleet Admiral Castor reviewed the deployment plans for the upcoming offensive against the Volusian core worlds. Victory was mathematically inevitable. The strategic algorithms predicted the collapse of Volusian resistance within 3 standard years, provided resource allocation remained optimal. "Admiral," his adjutant interrupted, "we've lost contact with 3 surveillance outposts in Sector 17. Castor made an irritated gesture. "Volusian raiders or communication node failure. Dispatch a reconnaissance squadron." "Already done, Admiral." They also went silent upon reaching the sector. This caught Castor's attention. "Show me the last transmission." The holographic display flickered to life, showing grainy footage from the lead scout vessel. Stars stretched oddly at the edge of the frame, as if being pulled toward a central point. Then, darkness, a perfect absence of light, filled the screen, shaped like an impossibly elongated cylinder. The image distorted, pixelated, and froze before cutting to static. "Sensor malfunction," Castor concluded. "Or Volusian electronic warfare. Deploy Strike Fleet unyielding, full combat protocols. Strike Fleet unyielding, comprising 27 advanced warships and their support vessels. emerged from FDL at the coordinates of the last known scout transmission. Their sensors immediately detected the anomaly, a massive object approximately 18 kilometers in length, 1 kilometer in diameter. Its surface absorbed all scanning attempts, returning no data. Admiral Vostarn of the flagship Inevitable Victory studied the readings with growing concern. Configuration unknown. No observable propulsion system. No energy emissions. No response to identification queries. He straightened his posture. Deploy an attack formation Delta. All weapon systems on standby. The Cathar ships surrounded the object, maintaining what they calculated as a safe distance. Still, the object remained motionless, silent, revealing nothing of its nature or purpose. Commence targeted scanning sequence, ordered Vostarn. Prepare to. He never finished the command. The space around the black object, twisted, not warped or distorted. Those would be comprehensible phenomena, but violated in some fundamental manner. Ships at the formation's edge found themselves suddenly closer to the object, while others were pushed farther away, all without apparent movement from either party. Impossible, Vostarn whispered as his tactical display showed his perfectly arranged formation now scattered in seemingly random positions. Then came the silence. Every communication channel dead. Every sensor blind. Every weapons system inert. 27 warships, carrying the most advanced technology the Cathar Empire had developed over millennia, reduced to powerless husks in less than 6 seconds. In that terrible stillness, the object finally moved. Slowly, with deliberate purpose, it rotated its immense length until one end pointed directly at the flagship. The blackness at its tip seemed to deepen, as if the very fabric of space was being consumed. Admiral Vostarn, veteran of 100 battles, felt something he had never experienced: pure, primal terror. Full reverse thrust, he commanded. Emergency FTL jump. Any coordinates. But nothing responded. The ships were locked in position, held by forces beyond their understanding. The object opened, not with mechanical doors or visible seams, but a spiraling unfolding at its forward section, revealing deeper blackness within. From this void emerged nothing visible, yet space itself convulsed between the object and the Cathar fleet. One by one, in perfect sequence, each Cathar vessel imploded, not through explosive decompression or structural failure, but as if the fundamental forces holding their atomic structures together simply opted to cease functioning. Ships collapsed inward into impossibly small points of blinding light before disappearing completely. No debris, no radiation, no traces remained that 27 warships had ever existed. The Inevitable Victory, as flagship, was left for last. On its bridge, Admiral Vostarn and his crew watched in helpless horror as their fleet vanished ship by ship. "What is it?" his second-in-command whispered. "The end," Vostarn replied, simply as the invisible force reached their vessel and reality began to unravel around them. The object, which Cathar Emergency Broadcast had already begun calling the Devourer, closed its spiral aperture and resumed its previous dormant state. Then, with no detectable propulsion, it began moving toward the heart of Cathar territory. News of Strike Fleet Unyielding's destruction spread rapidly through Cathar military channels. High Command initially classified the information, but rumors proliferated, tales of an invincible ghost ship, a planet-sized weapon, a living void in space. The strategic AIs struggled to compute proper responses without adequate data on the threat. High Commander Vexar convened an emergency council with his senior staff. "This entity must be a Volusian superweapon," he declared. "Their desperation has driven them to deploy experimental technology." The intelligence director's appendages twitched nervously. "The Volusians appear equally confused by these events, Commander. Their communication channels are filled with speculation about our supposed secret weapon. Neither side anticipated this development." "Then who?" demanded Vexar. "No other species in this sector possesses technology of this caliber." The room fell silent until one officer spoke hesitantly. "The Human Research Station. Could there be a connection?" Vexar dismissed the suggestion with a contemptuous gesture. Impossible. They were primitives with barely functional interstellar capabilities. This is something else, and whatever it is, the Empire will respond with overwhelming force. Over the following weeks, the object, now designated the Devourer, in official Kthar communications, methodically targeted Kthar infrastructure throughout the sector. Communication relays, fuel depots, shipyards, each approached with the same deliberate pace, each destroyed with the same incomprehensible efficiency. The Kthar responses grew increasingly desperate. They deployed experimental weapons, quantum disruptors, dimensional folding bombs, even prohibited singularity generators. None had any effect. The object absorbed or redirected every attack. Some weapons activated prematurely, destroying their Kthar carriers. Others simply ceased to exist before deployment. The pattern of destruction revealed a chilling intelligence. The object wasn't blindly attacking. It was systematically dismantling the Kthar military infrastructure in precise order of importance, as if it possessed perfect knowledge of Kthar's strategic vulnerabilities. Command centers were isolated before being neutralized. Supply lines were severed at their most critical junctions. Reinforcements were diverted or delayed through precisely calculated spatial distortions. Throughout the galaxy, other powers observed with growing unease. The Volusian Federation, initially pleased by their enemy's misfortune, became increasingly concerned as the nature of the threat became clear. This was no random attack, no natural phenomenon, no limited strike. This was execution on a strategic scale. In Volusian diplomatic halls, emergency sessions debated their response. Admiral Telesir, their most decorated fleet commander, addressed the Security Council. "We must consider the unthinkable," she said gravely. "This entity, whatever it is, may not distinguish between Kthar and Volusian. If it continues on its current trajectory, it will destabilize the entire quadrant." "You suggest we aid our enemies?" asked an incredulous counselor. "I suggest we preserve ourselves," Telesir replied. "Reports indicate the object's origin coincides with the destruction of a human research station. We dismissed their protests, their demands for investigation. What if this is their response?" The council chamber erupted in disbelieving murmurs. The humans? They're barely interstellar. Their technology is generations behind ours. Admiral Telesir's expression remained grim. "Perhaps we've gravely miscalculated. The object that our intelligence services have now designated JÖRMUNGANDR, named after an ancient human mythological serpent, displays technology beyond anything in our theoretical frameworks. If this is indeed of human origin, then they have concealed their true capabilities masterfully." Across the galaxy, the name spread. JÖRMUNGANDR, the world serpent. The void coil. The silence. Fear traveled faster than light, carried by trembling voices and encrypted transmissions. Grainy, distorted footage of the object's attacks circulated on restricted channels. Experts analyzed the impossible physics of its movements, the inexplicable nature of its weapons. Religious sects proclaimed the end times. And still, JÖRMUNGANDR continued its implacable advance through Kthar space, a black needle threading through the tapestry of stars, leaving emptiness in its wake. On the Kthar throne world Kazex Prime, Emperor Zarkoth received the unthinkable report. The military command requested permission to seek alliance with the Volusian Federation. "Madness," he hissed, claws scratching deep furrows in his ancient throne. "We have fought the Volusian filth for 7 generations. Our honor forbids such weakness." Grand Strategist Mazkor lowered all 4 eye stalks in deference. "Great Emperor, JÖRMUNGANDR has destroyed 30% of our fleet strength in 18 days. Our predictive models calculate total military collapse within 42 days if current trends continue. Honor may require we fight to the last warrior, but survival demands adaptation." The Emperor's compound eyes darkened with fury, then resignation. "Initiate contact, but we negotiate from strength, not desperation." The Kthar Empire does not beg. The unlikely diplomatic channel opened. For the first time in 300 years, Cthar and Volusian representatives met directly, aboard a neutral station in contested space. The atmosphere crackled with ancient hatred and fresh suspicion. "We propose a temporary cessation of hostilities," the Cthar ambassador stated, mandibles tight with restrained disgust. A united front against this existential threat. The Volusian delegation exchanged glances. "Your empire faces extinction," their lead negotiator replied coldly. "Ours does not yet. What do we gain from this alliance?" "Time," answered the Cthar. "JÖRMUNGANDR has focused on Cthar targets thus far, but intelligence suggests a connection to human interests. The Volusian Federation has similarly dismissed human diplomatic protests. Logic suggests you may become targets once we are neutralized." The negotiations proceeded tensely, each side suspicious of betrayal, each aware of the unprecedented stakes. Eventually, a fragile agreement formed. A joint Cthar-Volusian battle group would confront JÖRMUNGANDR at the Carillon Nebula, combining the most advanced technologies of both civilizations. As the Allied fleet assembled, JÖRMUNGANDR remained motionless at the edge of the nebula, as if waiting. 300 warships from two empires that had sought each other's destruction for centuries now united against a common enemy. Their combined firepower could reduce a planet to molten slag within minutes. Admiral Telesir of the Volusian flagship Unwavering Truth conferred via secure channel with Cthar Fleet Lord Drexuar. "Our tactical simulations suggest concentrated fire might overwhelm its defensive capabilities," she said, studying the holographic battle plans. "Agreed," Drexuar replied, his translator converting the clicking Cthar speech to standard galactic. "Our scientists theorize its power must have limitations. No weapon is invincible." The attack commenced with synchronized precision. Wave upon wave of enhanced antimatter torpedoes streaked toward JÖRMUNGANDR, followed by focused particle beams and exotic matter projectors. For a moment, the black vessel disappeared entirely within the blinding energy of the barrage. When the attack subsided, JÖRMUNGANDR remained unchanged, absorbing or ignoring thousands of terajoules of destructive energy without apparent effect. "Impossible," whispered Telesir. "Nothing could withstand that bombardment." Then, JÖRMUNGANDR responded, not with weapons, but with something far more insidious. A signal propagated through the command networks of both fleets, a signal that bypassed all security protocols, all encryption, all firewalls. Ship by ship, system by system, targeting computers recalibrated. Navigation controls realigned. Weapons safeties disengaged. Horror dawned on the Allied commanders as they realized what was happening. Their own vessels were being turned against each other. "Emergency override," shouted Telesir. "Disconnect all network nodes. Manual control only." But it was too late. Cthar ships opened fire on Volusian cruisers. Volusian dreadnoughts targeted their own escorts. The carefully arranged formation dissolved into chaos as centuries of ingrained hostility resurfaced, amplified by JÖRMUNGANDR's influence. Each side immediately assumed betrayal by the other. "The Volusians have sabotaged our systems," roared Drexuar. "This alliance was a trap." "The Cthar are reverting to their true nature," countered Telesir. "They sacrifice us to save themselves." Within minutes, the carefully constructed alliance collapsed. Ships that had arrived as allies now fought as enemies once more, while JÖRMUNGANDR remained untouched at the battle's edge, a silent observer to the self-destruction it had orchestrated. Aboard the Unwavering Truth, Admiral Telesir watched in despair as the tactical display showed friendly and enemy signals blinking out in rapid succession. "It's not attacking us," she realized aloud. "It doesn't need to. It's making us destroy ourselves." Her executive officer's face had gone pale. "The targeting systems won't respond to overrides. Weapons are firing autonomously." "Shut down everything," Telesir ordered. "Complete power shutdown, all systems." "That would leave us defenseless." "We're already defenseless," she interrupted. "Better powerless than turned against our own people." As emergency protocols initiated, the core shut down. Telesir opened a general broadcast channel. To all vessels, this is Admiral Telesir. JÖRMUNGANDR has compromised our command systems. The only defense is complete shutdown. Repeat, power down all. Her transmission cut short as a Cathar battlecruiser, its systems similarly compromised, fired a full broadside into the unwavering Truth's bridge section. The flagship's secondary command center automatically activated, but found itself targeting Allied vessels with all remaining weapons. In less than 20 minutes, the greatest combined fleet ever assembled in the quadrant reduced itself to scattered debris and crippled hulks. JÖRMUNGANDR had not fired a single conventional weapon. When the destruction was complete, the black vessel resumed its journey toward the Cathar home systems, leaving the survivors to make sense of the catastrophe and to spread tales of its incomprehensible power throughout the galaxy. On Kazek's Prime, Emperor Zarkoth received the news of the Allied fleet's destruction with uncharacteristic silence. For the first time in the 10,000-year history of the Cathar Empire, defeat was not just possible but imminent. "How long until it reaches our system?" he finally asked. Grand Strategist Mazkor consulted the tactical projections. 7 standard days at its current velocity, Emperor. Our remaining defensive forces have been recalled to establish a final perimeter, but after what happened at Carillon. The Emperor rose from his throne, moving to the ancient war table that displayed a holographic map of Cathar space. Once vast and expanding, now shrinking daily as system after system went dark. What do we know of this entity? Truly know, not speculate. Mazkor hesitated. Its capabilities defy our science, Emperor. But our intelligence division has confirmed one detail. JÖRMUNGANDR appeared exactly 3 standard days after the neutralization of the human research station in the Kepler sector. Humans, Zarkoth hissed the word. We dismissed them as insignificant. A miscalculation, it seems, Mazkor acknowledged. Our analysts now believe JÖRMUNGANDR may be an automated vengeance weapon, perhaps the humans' final defense protocol. If so, it may have been designed with specific objectives. To destroy those who destroyed them, the Emperor concluded. Yet if that were true, why has it not targeted the Volusian Federation? They also dismissed the humans' diplomatic protests. Mazkor's eye stalks lowered. Perhaps because we struck the actual blow, Emperor. Or perhaps it simply hasn't finished with us yet. In the following days, the Cathar Empire marshaled its remaining strength for a final defense. Orbital platforms ringed the home world, equipped with experimental weapons developed in desperate haste. The planetary shield, never before activated due to its catastrophic energy requirements, hummed to life, draining power from an entire continent. The remnants of the once mighty fleet formed a last line, their crews aware they faced certain death. JÖRMUNGANDR arrived precisely when predicted, emerging from FDL at the system's edge. The Cathar defenders watched in dread as it moved unhurriedly toward the throne world, ignoring the outer defensive positions completely. Emperor Zarkoth addressed his people one final time. Children of Kazeks, from the time of our earliest ancestors, we have conquered the stars through strength and cunning. We have never known defeat, never accepted limitation. Today we face an enemy beyond our understanding, perhaps beyond understanding itself. But even now, we remain Cathar. We stand defiant. We yield nothing. The orbital defense grid activated as JÖRMUNGANDR entered range. Planet-cracking energy beams converged on the black vessel from 27 different platforms. For a brief moment, the defenders dared to hope as JÖRMUNGANDR disappeared within the blinding confluence of destructive power. When the barrage ceased, JÖRMUNGANDR continued its advance, untouched. The remaining fleet engaged next, launching their full complement of antimatter warheads before charging to point-blank range. Ships detonated their own reactors in suicide attacks. Experimental dimension-shearing weapons tore holes in reality itself around the target. JÖRMUNGANDR absorbed it all, never slowing, never retaliating. When it reached the planetary shield, it paused. The Cthar defenders watched in tense silence as the black vessel simply rested against the supposedly impenetrable energy barrier, studying it, perhaps. Then, without violence or apparent effort, Jormungandr passed through the shield as if it didn't exist, continuing its descent toward the capital city and the imperial palace. In his throne room, Emperor Zarkoth dismissed his guards and advisors. This confrontation was always inevitable, he told them. I will meet our destroyer alone, as befits the final emperor of the Cthar. Jormungandr came to rest directly above the imperial palace, its enormous black mass blocking out the sun, casting the city into premature night. Citizens watched in terrified fascination, waiting for planetary bombardment for the end to come. But JÖRMUNGANDR did not attack. Instead, for the first time since its appearance, it communicated, not with words or conventional signals, but with something more fundamental. Every electronic device on the planet, from the most sophisticated quantum computers to simple personal communicators, simultaneously displayed the same image, the Kepler Research Station, intact. Then, the station breaking apart under Cthar bombardment. Then, darkness. A simple message. A reminder of why it had come. A second wave followed, not an attack on the planet's infrastructure, but on its information systems. Jormungandr began systematically erasing the Cthar military database. Weapon schematics, strategic algorithms, tactical simulations, the accumulated military knowledge of 10,000 years of warfare, deleted byte by byte. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Zarkoth watched helplessly as the military displays went dark one by one. This was not mere destruction. This was calculated disarmament on a civilization-wide scale. Jormungandr was not eradicating the Cthar. It was removing their capacity to threaten others. When the erasure was complete, Jormungandr transmitted once more. This time, a signal that propagated not just throughout the Cthar Empire, but across the entire galaxy. It bypassed all known communication protocols, appearing simultaneously on all devices capable of receiving information. A simple audio tone, low and resonant, followed by words in the standard galactic language. The age of ignorance is ended. Silence will be maintained. Then, as abruptly as it had arrived, Jormungandr departed. It rose from Kha'Zix Prime, accelerated beyond the system's edge, and vanished into FTL, direction unknown, purpose fulfilled. In its wake, it left a fundamentally altered galaxy. The Cthar Empire, stripped of its military knowledge and capabilities, withdrew from all contested territories. The Volusian Federation, witnessing the complete subjugation of their ancient enemy without a single Cthar death, terminated their offensive operations immediately. Throughout galactic society, a new understanding emerged. Somewhere, humanity, a species most had dismissed as peripheral, possessed power beyond comprehension. They had not sought galactic dominance through conventional means. They had not engaged in lengthy diplomacy or built visible fleets. They had simply created JÖRMUNGANDR, and when provoked, they had unleashed it. No formal peace treaty was signed. No diplomatic conferences established new boundaries. None were needed. In the shadow of Jormungandr's demonstration, silence fell across the battlefields. The great powers, disengaged from their conflicts, withdrew to their borders and began the uncomfortable process of reimagining a galaxy where unseen leviathans might rise from the void should aggression reach too far. Humanity itself remained silent. No explanations were offered. No demands were made. Their remaining outposts continued their scientific work, seemingly unconcerned with galactic politics. Their ambassadors attended council meetings with the same quiet dignity as before, neither boasting of their hidden strength nor leveraging it for advantage. They didn't need to. Jormungandr had spoken for them, once, clearly, and with finality. In time, the name became more than a designation for a specific entity. It became a concept, a philosophy, a fundamental shift in galactic thinking. To invoke Jormungandr was to remind others of the consequences of arrogance, of the dangers in dismissing the apparently weak, of the catastrophe that follows from casual cruelty. The silence maintained. In the deepest bunker beneath Antarctica, in a chamber accessible to only 7 individuals on Earth, the quantum-locked vault resealed. The console went dark. The protocol completed. And somewhere in the vast darkness between galaxies, JÖRMUNGANDR waited, dormant but vigilant, a serpent coiled around the worlds of men, ready to stir should silence ever be broken again.